Hello and welcome to another episode of the Aussie Wisdom Podcast. Today I'm with rugby legend Andrew Slack, and we're going to go through whatever it is you'd like to talk about today. As always, I don't know where this is going to go. It's Andrew's turn to lead. And while we start, Andrew, what can you tell us about yourself?
Normal. I'm normal and happy being normal, but we've all got some sort of talents and skills, and I had a bit of talent in rugby and I got a bit of a profile through it, and through that I ended up sitting here talking to you. If I hadn't gotten the Wallabies, I doubt I would have. But I think sometimes we over laud sporting people. I'd rather be able to sing and play the piano and mandolin and guitar than be a footy person, but you don't get everything. I do feel that sometimes the pedestal on which we put sporting people is a bit too high, and I think it's a consequence of that is occasionally some of those sporting people don't handle the reality that in truth they are just normal.
And so it's interesting that you say singing or guitar or mandolin, or are you particularly interested in music?
No, I love it, absolutely love it. And I mean, I'm not the worst singer of all time, but I'd be struggling to get off the bench in fourth grade, and I just love to be able to just get out and sing. I can play a few chords on the guitar. My wife gave me a keyboard for my 59th birthday, so I fiddle with that, but I haven't got any natural ear, and if someone sings a tune I can't work it out like some of these amazing musicians can. But I realised had that gift there might have been other problems. You see a lot of musos who have difficulties. Creativity, I don't know how the brain works, but creativity sometimes means you got something's missing somewhere else, so you need a crutch here or there. It's, the whole gamut of life's a bit fascinating, but the short answer is I love music and I would like to be good at it.
Yeah. And so based on that, when you were playing as a team in sport or working as a team in life, would you go to concerts together or take in music or anything along those lines?
Oh yeah, often I remember 81 Wallaby tour, we went to see the Kinks in Dublin, 78 New Zealand tour, we went to see, I think it was the last Little River Band concert of a world tour, and they were sort of high in the, hit charts, all that sort of jazz. So we went and saw, I always forget, Tim and Neil Finn's first band, most sort of early band in Whangarei, New Zealand, with the Queensland side. I think it was Queensland side, it might have been Wallaby side, in 82, and they were staying at the same hotel, Split Ends. So we went and saw them, and there's more that I can't think of, but yes, it's the sort of thing we would go to. We'd go on tours, we'd be months and months away, so there's only so many late night toasted sandwiches you can have with each other, so you try and find alternative things to do, and if there was music around, we'd try and get along.
Does that mean that also as a group you'd probably do a bit of singing together?
The Australians, we did, I would take a guitar, but as I say, I was crummy. But there was one guy early on who was pretty good, Greg Shambrook, but he didn't have a long career on the representative front. So it was left to me, and I wasn't great, but occasionally the blokes would humour me, and after a few drinks we'd do something. But I've always sort of regretted that Australians weren't as they were sort of embarrassed about singing, like the Welsh and the Kiwis and the Irish, all those teams. I remember on a tour in Scotland in 81, we played the north of Scotland and Aberdeen, and then in those days you'd come back and you'd have a dinner together with the opposition, and it was it was fantastic, and they asked us to sing. They got up, the whole team got up and sang the Northern Lights of Aberdeen, and we'd all have a few drinks, and we'd won as well, so we felt good. And it was just beautiful, and they could all sing, and it was a lovely atmosphere. And then they asked us to sing, and we got up and sang a pretty flat Waltz and Matilda, I reckon, but at least we had a go. But it wasn't natural for sporting teams. I think now within Australian rugby teams, the whole Polynesian influence has maybe enhanced the music side of it. They're, you know, they're good singers and it's a part of their go. But yeah, we would try, but you know, there's always music on the bus, and guys like music, but they weren't. You know, we weren't rugby's answer to Coldplay.
So you spoke about talents and sort of developing talents over time. What is it that you think you're particularly good at that's helped you do what you've done?
I'm probably a pretty good listener, and you know, I sometimes think of me in conversations, think, God, I wish I'd have shut up a bit more, because you know, I can sometimes babble on and turn a sentence into a paragraph. But I think by and large I can cut myself off and listen well enough to try and get and understand the people I'm involved with. And you know, I don't know why, and you know, you're not pumping up your own tide, but you know, I care about how people feel, and you know, is that my mother? Did she engender that? Was it school? Was it my mates? It just is. You know, I like to like people. I like to be liked. And so it's easy to listen and be interested in people. And so that all helped in that, you know, sort of, I guess, falling into the leadership thing in rugby, because I am keen on how people work.
And do you think that listening at the moment is probably an underrated skill?
Yeah, it probably is. Well, I think it's probably always been an underrated skill. People who best need to listen aren't listening to being told to listen. You know, I think talking's an underrated skill now. On the other side of the coin, and you know, we had this discussion. I'm not a Facebook, Twitter, IT kind of person. You know, I'm just sort of half a generation beyond it. Although you know, a lot of my generation have jumped onto it and understand it. But you know, I had an occasion a couple of nights ago. I went to a concert, funnily enough, and my cousin and I were exchanging texts because he'd invited us, and because we actually didn't speak, it was just a text conversation. There was a misunderstanding, not that it particularly mattered, but had we picked up the phone and talked to each other, that misunderstanding wouldn't happen. So, you know, I'm as guilty as anyone of emailing or texting. Not as guilty as anyone. I'm probably less guilty than a lot, but I am guilty of doing it when really a lot of time and a lot of potential hassle can be saved by actually talking to someone.
Yeah.
So the more we talk, the more people are forced to listen. So if we can get a bit more talking happening, and then we're conscious of listening, that'll all work. But again, answer your question, do we need to listen more? Yep, but we need to talk more too.
And then the one thing I've noticed working with younger generations is that quite often they don't necessarily want to speak in person or on the phone. They definitely don't want to speak on the phone unless it's via text. And obviously you mentioned that you had a conversation with your cousin who's family, and he couldn't understand where you were trying to go, or you couldn't understand him because it was text, but you probably could have had a 30-second phone conversation, could have got the message across.
Yeah, the mix-up would have been avoided with a chat. And, you know, this was like a minor issue. We laughed like hell about it in the end, you know. Mickey had him for texting, but I was as guilty as he was. But yeah, but kids, you know, you're saying kids are a bit reluctant to talk because that's what they've grown up with. And their immediate go-to action as opposed to what we're doing or just ringing. And, you know, the number of stories I hear about offices where, you know, some girl's in a cubicle here and the guy's there and she wants to talk to him, so rather than say, hey Bill, here I am, email. I mean, you know, I don't understand it, but things become a habit, and that's a habit now, and so kids are reluctant to talk, they don't get to listen, they don't get to analyse, and so as wonderful as this whole avalanche of IT and stuff like that, communication advances has taken the world, it's also taken us a few steps back in our, using maybe too lofty a term, our humanity really. So we need to douse that fire a bit.
Do you think sport could help with that kind of thing?
Well, they're no better. They're just people too. I don't know particularly. I think it can help a heck of a lot of things. sport. I'm not sure how in that specific area it helps. I mean, a lot of the promotion of sport now is done through social media things. I understand that's commercial reality.
Yeah.
I think again, if you come back to coaches in sport, I think it's important that within the framework of their team that they don't allow their guys to be consumed by machines, by phones or whatever, so that, if they go on a camp, put your phones in the box for 6 hours and let's have a yarn and, that it wasn't old-fashioned, just had to do because you didn't have phones in 30 years ago. You had to talk to each other and you loved talking to each other.
Yeah.
So I think, if they got in the habit of talking to each other, a regular habit in their spare time, I think everybody would be better off. So, I'm not sure in that particular area where sport has an influence, apart from the fact that sporting stars have an influence because they're sporting stars, and if someone gets to know them and then they push that barrow, well, maybe it'd trickle down.
And is there anything that you do regularly to help you build social connections?
I text my mates notice. No, I don't think about that.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I just, talk to my friends and talk to somebody and, meet it. There's always a new friend you haven't met or you run into somewhere else. It's not a thing I consciously consider.
Yeah. And just on meeting new friends, there's a lot of mentality out there, right? Having lived overseas or visited other places overseas, I think I've seen it in Australia, I've also seen it in Canada, but I've gone to other countries like parts of South America where they're very open to meeting new people. Is that something that you value, or are you quite happy with the group that you've got?
Yes to both of them. Very happy with my bunch of friends, and thank God I got plenty of them.
Yeah.
But every one of them was a new one at some stage.
Exactly.
So if I took the view that I didn't want to meet new friends, I'd have take myself back 63 years. I'd have none. So that's a defeatist kind of a guy. He said it flippantly. A footy commentator about he'd criticised somebody and he sort of flippantly said, I don't care if he's up me for criticising. I don't need any more new friends. Well, it's a joke, I suppose, but some people think that way, and it's a dumb way to think because everyone needs new friends. Do I, at my age and stage, with a happy and extended bunch of friends, go necessarily chasing it? No, but I certainly don't avoid it. I don't say, I'm not going to do this because I might have to talk to somebody I don't know.
Yeah.
Because that somebody I don't know could end up being a great pal. I was on the phone to a friend coming here this morning who's, it's 15 years more, 15 or something years younger than me. I only met him a few years ago. He and his brother and I were great friends, and we not had a conversation, but that was just life, and we met, and so close yourself off to nothing, I'd have thought, on the friendship front.
Yeah. And then, obviously you have an interest in people. Does that mean that you're also interested in biographies and autobiographies and that kind of thing?
Oh, yeah, not overly. I mean, they can be dull.
Yeah.
I mean, if I wrote an autobiography, you have sleep issues. That could be good for you. There's elements of my life that are interesting enough, but there's a very few people that, don't want to read 600 pages on. There's not a lot of Nelson Mandela's or whatever around. I used to read sporting biographies as a kid because I liked sport and I was impressionable.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'm going to reread any of them now. But some are. I'm interested. I'd rather talk to you about you than read your book.
Yeah, exactly.
No offence.
Yeah, absolutely. And just on that, so obviously we've all got some dull parts in our lives. If you were to sort of name a couple of things that you've done that you'd want to make sure were included in your autobiography, what would they be?
Not dull ones.
Not dull ones, ideally.
Right, not dull ones. You know, I honestly don't know what would thrill the world if I had a book.
Yeah.
What particular chapter? Geez, I've got to get to that chapter.
Yeah.
I really can't think of any. You know, I'm trying to, you know, look at somebody like Michael Ware, for instance, former Reds hooker, who I was assistant coach when he was in the Queensland team. He wasn't there. He didn't play for very long, but he is the most interesting fellow. He ended up going off and working, I think, for the New York Times eventually as a reporter when Iraq when it was all hitting the fan there, and he was sort of embedded there. And he's led a most interesting and different and fascinating and, in a sense, altruistic kind of life. Now that's interesting stuff. Me beating Ireland, you know, captaining team to win the Grand Slam is, you know, not everyone does it, but, you know, it's a long time ago and who wants to read about it? Unless you're a rugby historian, and I'm not sure how many of those there are.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? It's and you don't have to be obviously, you know, a lot of normal people out there would have interesting bits of lives that wouldn't fill a book. But I just, again, your question, I don't know what part would particularly interest people about my life that, you know, goes along the lines of being embedded in Baghdad when bombs were, you know, flying around.
Is there a certain part of your life that you'd replay if you had the chance? Like you had sort of 5 minutes to live. What's a certain part of your life that you would look like?
Oh, you know, I've had a lot of great things happen. You know, and you know, a few crummy things, but that's just what happens. But I remember, and just from a footy point of view, and there, you know, there are other things more important probably personally, but I remember so we won that Grand Slam in 1984, and then we have a final game against the Barbarians, which is all the best of Europe, basically at Cardiff Arms Park, and we played that, and it was good fun, and we won. And then I, as a captain, I had a room of my own. I remember coming back that night to shower and put on your number ones before we went to the shindig, and I went in the bathroom. I just looked in the mirror in my face for about, I don't know, a couple of minutes, and said, how did you end up here? How did you get all this sort of luck? And I'm sort of looking at myself and also thinking, have I gone slightly insane? But I remember that moment of just looking and said, well, oh, lucky bugger. So that's sort of a moment that stays with me.
Yeah. Did you ever think that you didn't necessarily deserve to be doing all that you're doing? Or?
No. I mean, you know, I had luck and things fell into place, but, you know, when the ball bounces off the tree into the hole, you still take it as a hole in one. Not that I've had one of those. Yeah. But, I think for potentially my ability as a rugby player, which was okay, you know, it was good, solid play, to captain Australia and beat the All Blacks and win the Grand Slam while I'm captain and, you know, get a lot of the kudos. I'm lucky and probably undeserving of it, but I got it and I did it and it happened, and Steph, you know, I'm happy to take it.
Yeah. And has there been, outside of captaining the Wallabies and winning Grand Slams and things, has there been a particular role in life that you've been particularly proud of?
I think helping people in a work situation. I was a teacher and I enjoyed teaching. I think I'd be a much better teacher, you know, at 63 than I was at 23, because at 23 all I'm thinking about is Andrew Slack and you know, the next footy game, and while I like the kids and hopefully they like, you know, and we did it enough. I wouldn't have thought I was the most conscientious educator known to man at that time. It was a bit of a secondary concern, but you know, I think I'm probably, if someone said, "Oh, what's your vocation?" and you know, it's a good thing to have a vocation, whether it's doctor or whatever you want to be. So I think my vocation would have been teaching, and so that background. And then when I ended up working in media, I don't think I was particularly special at, you know, that, but I think I was good at helping the team, the guys and girls around me, in trying to help them maximise their abilities and maintain their enthusiasm and whatever. So that's what I think I was good at, and pleased looking back on, a professional career at having some influence on that front.
Mm-hmm. And those skills, do you think you learned them from people around you?
I'm blowed if I know. I don't, as I said to you earlier, Mum, I had a really nice upbringing. So I didn't ever have to deal with, some of the difficulties that some young people have, be an economic sense or any other ways. And I can, a lot of people look back and say, I remember Mum saying this, and this happened, and because we went there, and, stayed in my mind, and that's why I did. None of that stays, nothing stays in my mind.
Yeah.
I don't remember any specific thing, but, and I never thought I know I'm loved. I never thought that stuff, but, clearly I know I was, and it was a great upbringing. Sort of my mum and her sister brought us up. My dad died when I was very young, and so it was a different upbringing. So I had two women as sort of parental influences.
Yeah.
But again, love them to death and whatever. But I can't put a specific thing on how they shaped me, but I have absolutely no doubt they shaped me. So I think that's, probably where it came from. And then my education, again, I loved my school. I liked the way teachers and priests are involved. I know that they're getting a bad rap, and, guilty ones are, they're guilty. But I have a lot to thank, education, the Catholic education I had, and, I know its downsides, I know its upsides, so all those things, you chuck them in the pot and out pops slack, and,
Yeah.
How did he end up getting how he is? I don't know.
Yeah.
And, there's lots of bits where I wish I was different and better and whatever, because, till we all die, we all wish something. Even the most satisfied person in the world wants to have something he or she hadn't got.
Yeah. And do you remember any role models in particular?
Again, on that front, none stuck out. I was coached at cricket early on by Wally Grout, but he was a test wicket keeper, and he always sort of had an influence on me. He died again. He died very young, early 40s, and I was just a kid. But I remember that time I was a bit besotted by this test cricketer, helping me at coaching. But I think he's a bit of a wide boy, Wally. He didn't mind a drink and a smoke and a punt. So I don't know whether if it rubbed off too much. But that was when I was a kid. I don't know. I think I could name none, or I could name a million.
Yeah.
I could name the footy coach, Bob Temple. I could name the guys I played with, from the Loans and McLeans and Cornelsons, all these sort of people, who rugby people would know. So yeah, all of them had some sort of influence. Looking, funnily enough, reading in the paper this morning about all this drama with the NRL and videos and culture and stuff, and there was a piece about some young footballer in one of the Sydney clubs trying to impress his older team members by showing him some sort of video. And the older team member said, "Mate, we can give a continental about that. You train hard and be a part of the team." So, that older guy, I'm gathering, has had a good influence by what he said. So I'm sure I had conversations with, say, Mark Lone when he was my captain in the early days. Had he been different and less strong-willed and mature than he was, he might have influenced me in another way. So I think all those things help create what you are, and then you've got to work yourself out on the back of that.
And when you're picking a team of players, and it could be workmates, or they could be players in a sporting team, is there a specific trait that stands out most to you as valuable?
Nothing that no one has ever not thought of before, and that's honesty.
Okay.
Just tell the truth.
Yeah.
And I think if you know that someone's telling the truth, you've got a good foundation from which to build or decide to go your separate ways. But If deception's involved, no one knows where they stand.
Yeah.
It's it's not as straightforward. It's a piece of cake to say just always tell the truth and be honest. And I can put my hand up as much or more than anyone that I've not always done it.
Yeah.
And no one does. But I think the attempt to do it is what matters. And the more you try, the more you'll succeed.
Mm. And what's it been like transitioning into retirement?
Well, the key is to be busy and have things to do.
Yeah.
Which I've succeeded in. As one of my rugby mates rang me when I retired and he congratulated, and I always wonder why people congratulate when you retire, but he didn't. He said he ran into a mate of his who'd walked down the street, had just retired, and he said, mate, how's retirement going? You're busy? And the bloke said, busy? I've had to put a bloke on. So I'm not quite that busy, but I've got enough, I've got something every day that is worthwhile. And I think, getting back to you can probably tell the Mitchy nose. Getting back to professional sport or whatever, the movement, which is similar to retirement, the movement from professional sport or anything like that into a more mundane existence is what's important. That they, it's the same deal one has to do in retirement. Make sure that they can keep getting something out of what they're now doing. A lot of retired people get pretty lonely and a bit, just lost for stuff to do, but I'm not sure that matters as much as those younger people in their 30s who have then got a long, long life ahead and they've got to establish what they really want to get out of life now that they're no longer a superstar footy player or whatever they might be.
Yeah.
So that side of, and I think most professional sports are trying to look at that, but the individuals have to be very conscious of it and those around them that they have things to do which are important to them.
And is there anything in particular on a daily basis that stands out to you as something that lights you up?
Well, I'm involved in a little bit of teaching, it's sort of a teacher aid kind of thing, and that I look forward to that. It's because again, as I said, I feel that there's some sort of vocational concept there, and those kids, you see a bit of progress, you feel as if you've done good. It's not sort of Mother Teresa kind of stuff, because it's ultimate. Well, even Mother Teresa, I'm sure she felt good with the stuff she did, so it's not hard to do. So you say, oh, you do some teaching, aren't you wonderful? You're not wonderful. Helping myself, but being busy, I really like doing it. It's a bit like saying, aren't you wonderful because you play golf twice a week? I go because I like it.
Yeah.
That's something that I really enjoy and is not completely about me. That's a nice thing to do, and I can fit it into my time. I don't, it's not a sort of 60-hour week slaving away marking books like most teachers have to do. Teachers get a bad rap by and large, but they deserve much better. So I'm enjoying that as part of the retirement.
And how do you compare coaching a sporting team versus teaching a classroom?
Well, you don't have a weekly win or loss, which is tough on the coaches. I mean, it can be more, teaching's a more evolutionary kind of show where, I think parents expect too much of teachers nowadays and aren't prepared to let their kid learn a bit on their way. They think every kid is special, but parents who think their kid's more special than the next one aren't a great help to teachers who are trying to be the best. And not every teacher's good and conscientious, but I think the majority are, and so coaches are judged on the scoreboard, and I think you can be a very good coach and maybe not win many games.
Yes.
So that's the problem with a teacher over a long period of time. It's worked out that you're a really good teacher, you're a mediocre teacher, or you're not a very good teacher. Whereas a coach can be a very good coach and he'll be flicked in a minute, or she'll be flicked in a minute, because the scoreboard doesn't tell the story. There is a scoreboard in education with marks, obviously, but it's a bigger show than that. And I think the good teachers get that sorted, but what they do is maximise the child's capacity, and that's something that just is always there for good teachers. So the coaching, I think there is a lot, and you'll find a lot of teachers involved in coaching. I think Anthony Sobel, the new Broncos guys, are a teacher, and you go through the number of people who've coached professionally in a lot of sports, and they have a teaching background. So I think the two are aligned, and there's pressure on both. The week-to-week pressure's the professional footy coach.
What do you think, regardless of sporting code, makes a good coach?
Can I go back to what we said before about listening?
Yeah.
You've got to understand the game. Alan Jones was our coach, and we had quite a lot of success, and people have asked about his influence. Obviously he's can talk and influence and motivate, but that motivation from a coaching point of view and saying the right things and getting you all pumped up, well, that'll last all about 23 seconds once you're on the field.
Yeah.
Then once you get whacked on your back by some 8-foot Leviathan, doesn't help much that the words were good.
Yeah.
But he understood the game. He understood how to maximise training runs. He got people in his shortcomings. He got people to help him. One person in particular. And he understood the nuances of the game. Tactically, he was fine. You've got to have the foundation of understanding the game and being able to move with how the game moves, in terms of the way sports change. But then you've got to have empathy for the individuals involved, understand what makes them tick, understand that sometimes it's all got to be about the team, and you've got to make people fit into the team environment, and within that also understand that one or two or three or four at various times might need a bit more caressing or kicks up the backside, so it's there's a bit of psychology. Well, there's a lot of psychology involved, and that that again involves listening and caring. I don't think you're going to get a really good coach. A lot of them are driven by ego, but I don't think if you're solely driven by ego as a coach, you're going to get very far.
And so we might wrap it up, considering you've got a few things to do. But before we do, is there a certain project that you've worked on in your life that stands out to you as particularly meaningful? And it could be something that's happened over a few years that you've worked towards, or...
No, I don't. I'm not a sort of project or a goal-setting kind of person. Never have been.
Okay.
I don't, and that in some ways might be a bit of a shortcoming. I think if somebody, when I was young, said, look, set a goal, get into goal setting, and want to do this by this time or that, it might have helped. I just took each day as it came and felt that it. I'd do what I had to do. I semi-regret that I never sort of stretched myself. I'd train, if we had a training run, I'd do exactly what I was told. Would I do any extras? No, unless someone forced me to do it. And, in a sense, I regret that I didn't have that mentality, and no one sort of said, well, push yourself beyond what, Chris can go that far. Well, wouldn't you want to be better than Chris? Why don't you go that far? And I was happy to be along with whoever. So, I've never thought about projects or goals, but I think if I was advising kids now, I'd say, yeah, definitely try goals. And this, I don't have a project, but I like what I said earlier to, help other people maximise what they want. And there's nothing, there's a lot of things that annoy me more, but from an expression point of view, nothing annoys me more than people say, if you try hard enough and you work hard enough, you'll get what you want. Well, you won't. There's no guarantees about it. You can work your backside off and you want to play for Australia at tennis. If you can't lay bat on ball, racket on ball, you're not going to play for Australia. So what I would say, look, the notion of that's quite good, work hard and hard, but if you see improvement every day in something, that's a goal in itself. So you've worked your whatever off to get to say, okay, you didn't get picked for Australia, but gee, I'm better than I was when I started.
Yeah.
So that's the achievement.
Yeah.
So I think, that's a project everybody should try and have. And I guess in some way, even at my age and stage, you're still trying to be a bit better than you were yesterday. So it might be as selfish and self-oriented as golf. It might be about more, altruistic and meaningful things with other people. But, again, as I say, I've never thought about having a project, but somewhere in the back of my mind, I like to make sure that, today's good and hopefully something you do is better tomorrow.
And obviously we hear about people having goals and dreams and working towards certain things by certain timelines. Do you think when you were amongst other high achievers, do you think the majority worked that way, or more like the way where you worked, where you sort of showed up every day, did the best you could, and then if it worked out, it worked out?
No, I think the majority were like me.
Yeah.
There's a percentage who would probably put in the extras.
Yeah.
And I think nowadays, if we were playing now in that professional era, it would be, I think, hammered down our throats that we needed to do the extras. But our extras in those days were the work you did, or your study.
Yeah.
So your training, and then you've got all these other things on the side. Well, actually, the rugby was the stuff on the side.
Yeah.
But you're working and you're studying, and if you had families, all that was. So you didn't really have, it was an excuse, but you didn't have that time. Now, if those guys like me who just did as much as they had to do, were in the professional environment, I think you'd find they'd be more willing to do the extra work. But again, and I think they'd be talk more about dreams and goals. We were a week to week team. We didn't think about beyond. We just, who you playing on Saturday, or see what we can do about that. Enjoy it Saturday night, and then front up on the following week and do it all again.
And so, based on that, were Saturday nights with your mates and your teammates important?
Oh yeah, gotcha. That was the fun. I mean, you did the work, and the work was fun because it's a sport. You're mucking around, you're doing your best. But then getting together, and as I told you that story in Aberdeen, a lot of those representative games we'd get together with the opposition, and you'd have a few beers, and not that beers are a necessary part of it, but they sometimes caused a few giggles, and we had fun, and that was, that's why I loved it. I mean, if I'd have played the footy and then gone home, I wouldn't have kept playing footy as long as I did. We had great times and met lots and lots of terrific people, and everyone was involved. Your own families were involved, and it wasn't a this is us and we're not letting people in show. It was quite the opposite. So it was it was a great time.
We might just wrap it up there, and thanks very much for your time.
Pleasure, Chris.
Thanks, Andrew. But I thought I'd just remind you that every first Thursday of every month I host Beers with Mates, and we may not all play sports together, we may not all watch sports together, we may not even be interested in sport, but it's a chance to have a beer or not drink at all, or have something else to drink, and just catch up, meet some people that you may not have met before, connect with people you haven't seen in a while, and just generally enjoy ourselves. As Andrew said, that was a big part of the enjoyment of sport for him, and I think just because we're not professional sports people doesn't mean we can't enjoy a lot of that. Would you agree?
Completely. We weren't professional either, we were amateurs. It's good fun. Professionals should do more of it.
Perfect, thank you.
Thanks, Chris.